Hello, and welcome to the 21st video in my Punishing Graven lore series. Today we'll cover the 6th release extra story chapter, EX5 Inscription of Labyrinth. Previously in chapter 14, Grey Raven was held prisoner in Babylonia due to the influence of Corono, a shadow organization who wants to make use of Commandant's ability to connect with Ascendants. In their stead, Strikehawk was sent to investigate Ground Zero of the Longinus Strike, finding the second half of the City 75 hideout and encountering both old and new foes alike, including 2 new agents in Vonnegut and the Merciful One. Due to Chrome and a number of backdoor deals, Commandant was temporarily freed from his imprisonment to assist in destroying the last vestiges of the Red Tide hiding in the underground sewers. Having eliminated both the Tide and a menacing hetero creature called a Hive Mother, the Babylonians head back to Eden, unaware of the true dangers hiding in the shadow of the world government. Now without any further delay, Extra Story Chapter 5, Inscription of Labyrinth. A few days after the end of Operation Red Tide, Colin sits in his office talking to a lesser-known Corono affiliate named Rebecca, who will attract less unwanted attention from the world government. Colin suspects that Commandant's condition may be exactly what is needed to advance Corono's research on Ascendants, and hopes to find any secrets about Luna hiding in his subconscious. In Babylonia's logistical center, Cerberus is issued a mission through the task force. Quite an odd event, as their missions usually come from Nicola directly. Having taken care of that, the staff take out a file marked as Omega level clearance, a secret mission directly from Corono higher-ups, to assign weapons and supplies needed for tracking and containment, with the target of this operation being none other than Commandant himself. Cerberus arrives at a small town abandoned during the Golden Age, tracking what is assumed to be a signal from Luna. Vera has Noctis secure the surroundings as 21 preps the nodes for remote connection, with Vera finding it suspicious that Murray is taking so long to join the operation. Prior to the start of the mission, Commandant was picked up by Corono agents who wanted his assistance for a secret assignment. Commandant looks through the documents, and at the bottom of the transfer notice, he finds Hassan's signature. He remembers a conversation between the two where Hassan tells him to expect Corono to make an appearance, and that since he can't stop them, they will have to plan around Corono's scheme to eventually set Commandant free. So for the time being, he must play along with their demands. After being blindfolded, Commandant opens his eyes, finding himself in a pitch-black room surrounded by armed guards when Rebecca steps out of the shadows. She tries all of her normal intimidation tactics, but soon realizes it's useless and drops the act, admitting that he's here to link with their ground team and command the search for Luna. He dons the remote connection device and his mind beacon links to Cerberus, who are on standby outside the town. Vera is initially shocked to find Grey Raven's Commandant leading them of all people, given Cerberus' unique team dynamic, but quickly gets past it, introducing him to 21 and Noctis before they all head into town. They pass through a wall of fog walking down the main road, when 21 suddenly screams out and fires a laser at a tree behind them, saying she felt like she was being watched. They search their surroundings, finding nothing, but 21 can't shake the feeling they are being followed. As they head further into town, they come across a destroyed medical robot, and having nowhere else to go, they head for the nearby hospital hoping to find more clues. When they arrive at the hospital, Commandant's vision begins to shift. He sees the hospital in its prime, surrounded by blooming flowers, accompanied by a vivid sense of nostalgia, as if he was actually there. Right on cue, Corrupted swarm their location, along with a series of unmanned vehicles, and as Cerberus fights them off, a mysterious someone watches the team from the shadows. After the fighting, Commandant says that the trap is too crude to have been a proper deterrent, but Noctis has a different idea, saying it might be someone trying to lead them, and he points to a wall with the words "This way" written in red paint. Everyone decides that it would be best to split the group in two to investigate the mysterious clues and track down whoever may have left it. Vera and Noctis take the latter, leaving Commandant and 21 to follow the clues left behind. Vera transfers the mind connection to 21 and hops in a car Noctis stole from a nearby police precinct. After a bit of walking, 21 arrives at the precinct Noctis found his car, and she approaches one of the vehicles in the pile. She looks at the window, and the hand of a little girl slams against the glass, accompanied by an eerie laughter. Reflexively, she blows a hole in the car, and the two see the figure disappear into the entrance of the precinct. They enter the building to find it unorganized and hastily packed, with boxes littering the office. 21 knocks over a stack of files, causing the TV to turn on, displaying a recorded football game. And thinking the players are trapped within the screen, she promptly blows it up. While looking around, Commandant feels like there should be a photo on the counter. But why does he think that? He thinks to himself as an intense feeling of trust and safety wells up from within him, a feeling so strong it makes his heart ache. The two hear a child's laughter fill the precinct and see the image of the same little girl standing outside. The girl calls out for her parents, talking about a birthday party that should be taking place soon. 21 smashes the window, but upon landing on the other side, the girl has vanished. Not knowing what to do, they decide to head back to the hospital, and not too long passes before 21 asks Commandant what a birthday is. As he answers her question, 21 suddenly screams out in pain, and Commandant's mind beacon is dropped as their connection is severed. He wakes up in the same dark room, now with chains on his ankles and weapons drawn. Despite him being in the same empty environment, something is off, but his semi-conscious state doesn't allow him the awareness to make deeper observations. Rebecca's hologram appears in the room, and she says that they lost 21's signal. She shows him a map displaying Vera and Noctis, who have also apparently gotten lost within the mission area. Rebecca wants him to reconnect with Vera and continue the mission, but Vera is highly skilled in her own right, and it's highly unlikely she just got lost, so he assumes there must be a reason. To top it off, 21 is the only other person who can see his visions, so he explains the visions, and this seems to get Rebecca's attention, as she has her men comply with whatever he needs to keep following them, but reminds him that they are still watching everything he does, and his leaving is determined by if Corono gets what they want. After restarting the connection, he searches through an ocean of data and finally manages to find 21's signal, linking back up, only to find her panicked and injured, bleeding from a wound on her stomach. She rejects the connection as Commandant makes every attempt to stabilize her mind and calm her down. The mental fog subsides, and she calms down just enough for him to help her treat her wounds, and the two get back on track to complete the mission. They find traces of battle and confirm that Luna was once here but has long since left. 21 mentions that she also feels a sense of familiarity from the hospital, something she didn't feel until linking with Commandant. They see doctors, nurses, and patients walking throughout the halls as the girl from before talks to one of the figures. The vision goes beyond a normal visual hallucination. They feel the warmth of the hand patting them on the head, and smell the scent of rubbing alcohol as if they were actually present for these events. 21 tries to approach the figures only to have the vision stop, as all the shades fade away. Having gotten all they can out of the hospital, they leave to find Vera and Noctis. They pass the precinct once again and are attacked by Corrupted. During the fighting, 21 gets another vision, this time remembering the hazy feeling of someone very important to her being attacked by Corrupted, and she panics thinking it might represent Vera. Commandant calms her down, saying regular Corrupted could never pose a threat to Vera, and suggests they head the direction the girl went, when his vision shifts again, showing him a mansion in the distance as the girl's voice whispers, "Follow me." 21 sprints through the woods following the shades of two girls as they appear and disappear, running and playing in the woods. One after another, Commandant, as if stuck in a dream overlapping with reality, experiences the visions so vividly he's unaware if he's still in Corono's black room or physically there on the ground running through a sunny forest. The two arrive at the mansion and, finding the main gate locked, discover a hole in the side of the fence to enter the courtyard before unlocking the door to the house. There they find the remnants of a birthday party, wondering if this is what the girl was talking about. 21 looks around and finds a picture of two young girls. She grabs the picture, with Commandant saying that he has seen these faces somewhere before. Then the pieces finally click. This is Luna's memory. The visions, the feelings of familiarity, it all finally makes sense. He has Luna's memories inside his head. The shock sends Commandant spiraling. Faces, words, and scenery, they all fragment and merge together in his head as he is swept away by a current of information, until a sharp pain brings him back to reality. 21 had cut herself with a nearby shard of glass, using their shared senses to give him something to latch onto. And with Commandant regaining his composure, they explore the house, to see what they can learn from the sisters' childhood home. As they look around, the rundown room reverts back to its prime. a cozy atmosphere with presents and decorations lining the walls, and in the closet a strange drawing. A young Lucia begins speaking, and the two can't help but reply back, as if watching a first-person movie. Line after line spills out of their mouths as a sense of joy rises from their chests. They follow the clues, working their way through the memories, as a gut-wrenching scream from the past destroys their pseudo-happiness. A woman yells for Lucia to take Luna upstairs, and the two can't help but follow along, letting themselves be dragged upstairs by the memory of their sister, as the screams from outside get louder. Lucia takes them to their bedroom, locking the door and checking outside, only to witness the end of the world. They see people fleeing the town, heading to the river or the woods or wherever else they can go to escape the virus, as waves of scarlet-eyed corrupted flood the streets. Friends and neighbors pound on the gates, trying desperately to get inside and escape from the machines. They see their father, struggling to get through the crowd as he calls for his children, only to have his head crushed by the sheriff he once served beside. Even when consumed by fear, their mother tries her hardest, moving everything she can in front of the gate to keep the corrupted out. The bloodied hands of both people and machines reach through the bars, attempting to drag her into the depths. She turns her back, pushing against the gate with all of her strength, and teary-eyed she looks up at her daughters on the second floor, with her last words telling Lucia to protect her sister, to run, as a hand passes through the gate and tears through her chest. Lucia grabs Luna's hand, and with tears streaming down their faces, they run. In the panic, Luna trips and falls. The confusion of the situation sets in, and she loses the ability to think straight. Lucia tries her hardest to calm her down, getting more and more anxious as the sounds of banging steel get closer. She convinces Luna the entire event is a movie, telling her to play her part and hide in the basement as Lucia distracts the corrupted within the house, promising she will come back. Despite knowing the truth of the situation, neither 21 nor Commandant can shake their faith in the girl's words, as if they genuinely believe everything she says. As the corrupted get closer, Lucia sends Luna to hide, and she runs throughout the house until she is cornered while trying to escape. She manages to get away and finds an opening to get to the basement, and there she sits in the darkness, cracking the door to the staircase as a sliver of light comes from outside. The nearing sounds of metal cause her heart to race, as the sound of a body hits the ground, and then silence, the only noise left being the pounding of her heart. She tries her hardest to resist the urge to call out, when there's another loud bang and Lucia's body rolls down the stairs. Even with blood pouring from her temple, Lucia manages to stand back up as the shadow of a corrupted steadily advances, covering the girl in darkness. Before Luna's fear can completely take over, the basement door is thrust open, her blood boiling as he raises her stuffed animal to protect Lucia, who begins screaming, pleading for Luna to get back. And having found new prey, the corrupted charges. 21 screams, reaching out her hands to find nothing. This is it. This is as far as Luna's memory goes, whether she can't remember or outright refuses to, when a sudden explosion from outside interrupts their conversation. Racing downstairs, 21 finds the front door blown to pieces, and after hearing the voices from within, she dives into the smoke, finally reuniting with the rest of Cerberus. Vera explains that the clues they were following had led them all the way here, and that their mystery guest should be nearby. They enter the house again and think that the strange drawing from before might actually be a clue, and upon closer inspection, find out the strange drawing is a topographic map pointing to an area at the back of the house. They approach a clearing in the woods and find two figures already locked in combat, one of them being Roland, with quite the new look. Roland and the figure continue fighting, with Roland steadily being pushed back. The figure soars into the sky, and framed by the moon is a metallic creature covered in black armor. It tells Roland that its mission was to lead him here, and Vera realizes the clues were never meant for them, but for Roland. Since Luna is clearly not here, there is no point in continuing the mission, and even less of a point in butting into a fight that has nothing to do with them. Vera assumes the Commandant has also finished his mission, and he picks up an odd implication in her tone, but doesn't have much time to pry into it as 21 is spotted and their position is exposed. The entity, identified as Voodoo, charges Vera, but switches its target to 21 at the last second. Unable to respond, 21 collapses as a searing pain takes hold of her mind, and without actually being so much as touched, 21 has been rendered unable to fight. Voodoo reveals that her mind has been hacked. In fact, it has been since the mission first began. Tiny mechanical spiders crawl out of 21's sleeves, and Commandant realizes the thing that 21 sensed following her were Voodoo's spiders. So while Vera and Noctis handle Voodoo, he dives into 21's mind to bring her back. Inside her mind, Commandant doesn't find 21's past, but rather Luna's memories, as 21 watches the two girls laughing and playing together. The memories fade and 21 is left alone in her empty, bleached world, as the void tries dragging her back in. A false Commandant tries luring her deeper into the illusion, telling her to attack Voodoo. She turns her back on the Voodoo in front of her, who turns out to be the rest of her team, and breaks through the hacking. Together they charge at Voodoo, who is unable to handle the complete Cerberus and is defeated, when suddenly Roland re-enters the fight. Previously thought to have been beaten, Roland stands up effortlessly, towering above Voodoo, who is no match after being weakened by Cerberus. Voodoo raises her head and says that Vonnegut will be pleased with Roland's performance, igniting the engine under her wings and taking off into the night. Seemingly aware that Commandant is connected to 21, Roland also takes his leave, as Babylonia reinforcements will arrive soon after. The transports land and a troop of coronal constructs disembark, with their leader terminating Cerberus' mission and demanding compliance. Vera is right about to start her tirade of mockery when she pauses for a moment and begins following their orders unconditionally. Knowing Vera would never bend a knee without reason, 21 and Noctis do the same and back down. Some time later, while the others give their mission reports, 21 walks through the forest asking about the two sisters and what happened after the memory ended. While Commandant himself doesn't know how they got there, only that they did end up in their respective positions as Construct and Ascendant, yet he still manages to give her a satisfactory answer. And as he's disconnected, 21 promises the next time they encounter each other, she'll come up and say hi. With that, Commandant opens his eyes, still in his black room, constructs with weapons pointed now that he's conscious. He sits in his chair and gets to thinking. Clearly the mission objective was not to find Luna, and that this town was specifically chosen. Maybe the aim was never Luna, but something within Commandant's Luna-tainted memories that they are trying to bring to the surface. But with the exhaustion from the mission finally catching up to him, he finds himself unable to keep his eyes open and falls asleep. Roland sits in utter darkness, with his body almost completely unresponsive. He is found by Alpha of all people, also searching for Luna within the sewers. As she leaves to confront Gabriel, he uses the last of his strength to reach the surface. As he makes his way out, the darkness leaves him alone with his inner thoughts, as his own doubts manifest as a set of voices in his head. Did you make the right choice, they say. Do you regret your actions? The voices taunt him as he succumbs to his injuries, and as his mind slips into darkness, a vague light appears in front of him, slowly expanding, filling his field of vision. Suddenly he hears the wind and the crackle of a fire, opening his eyes to see he is laying in a tent. Roland's confusion takes over as he can hear his own voice, and he inspects his mangled body only to find it's in perfect condition, but with a brand new look. He exits the tent to find a hooded woman sitting next to the fire. Roland assumes that this is the Merciful One, as she is known for giving second chances to anyone who she deems worthy, whether friend or foe, and she has decided Roland qualifies. Even if he doesn't completely trust her, the undeniable fact is she saved his life, repaired his frame, and gave him a second chance. That notion soothes him just a little, just enough to open up about Luna, Alpha, and how their faction fell apart. As the fire fades, Roland finishes his story and the Merciful One questions where the other guests ran off to. Moments later, Lamia returns and tries to flee upon seeing Roland. The Merciful One stops her, and the three sit by the fire until the sun rises and she takes her leave. As the two ascendants sit in silence, Roland asks Lamia a simple question: where were you? While his question was simple, the answer is anything but. After she stole Huashu's key, she tried to escape only to be blocked off by the crumbling cavern. Seeing Roland stuck in his crater with the Turgoda Queen, she ignored him and used every ounce of strength she had to climb the sides of the cavern. One step at a time, all in an effort to survive, she climbed and eventually reached an exit. Naturally, she keeps most of this information to herself, since if Roland learned that she had saw both Luna's disappearance and him being stuck in the crater, yet still did nothing to help, he would almost certainly kill her. She completed her deal with Murray, and after that she wandered the wastelands, unable to shake the feeling she was being watched. After a few days had passed, she was finally met by her pursuer. A mechanical winged figure descends and attacks, demanding that she hand over Huashu's key. Lamia fled, and Voodoo continued to hunt her down until she came across the Merciful One, causing Voodoo to turn and leave. And not too long after that, Roland woke up from the tent. Having been caught up, Roland says their shared goal should be finding Luna, and Lamia suggests they split up, solely trying to get a chance to sneak away. Roland turns the idea down, since neither of them have an idea of where to look, and dividing their strength certainly won't help. Before he can question her intentions, Lamia agrees, not wanting to give Roland any reason to see her as an enemy. They settle down for the night, and Roland asks about the Merciful One and why Lamia sought her out, with her reason being she felt a power similar to Luna's but not exact, and wanting to find a safe refuge. Not wanting to pry into it any further, he drops the conversation in favor of getting rest for the night. Long ago, back during humanity's golden age, there was an actor playing the role of a young son. The man playing his father read his lines off the script, telling the boy that life is great, but the power to take life is greater, since it is quicker to take a life than to live one. However, the boy disagrees. To the young actor who would go on to become Roland, the struggle of life is what he finds most impressive. Animals, people, even constructs, all fighting day after day to survive a little longer. This is why he is so enthralled by Luna, who has witnessed true despair and suffered numerous hardships, but she still moves forward, fighting to make her dreams come true. Her presence is what guided him, and as he remembers her, a sense of loss creeps in. What is he going to do if he can't find her? Suddenly from the darkness, his inner voice makes another appearance. Roland sits there talking to himself, that part of him that speaks the unfiltered truth without holding anything back. Roland is startled by the sound of Lamia shifting in her sleep, and the voice tells him to stop being so paranoid. This second life is his last chance, and having lost his agent, there are no do-overs, so he's being overly cautious. The voice reminds him that Roland is still Roland, independent of his body. He was always willing to risk his life before, and nothing should change now, because even if his life was given to him, it is still his, and he can do with it what he sees fit. Having been thoroughly convinced by himself, he gets back to sleep before the sun comes up. The next day, the two head out following any clues they can find, but not too long after, they begin running into small groups of corrupted. Not enough to pose a threat, but still they find it odd. Roland tries controlling them, but nothing happens. At first he thinks it might be his new body, and tells Lamia to make them stop, but she can't either, meaning the corrupted are being controlled by someone with equal or greater power. After consulting his inner voice, he realizes whoever is controlling them must be trying to convey a message, so he decides to follow their trail and see where it leads, since at present they are getting nowhere. Wandering around is going to be no help, and the Merciful One told him Alpha survived the sewers, meaning Gabriel was most likely killed, and by process of elimination, he can guess it's Vonnegut's group trying to get in contact. They follow the corrupted until the trail eventually stops, and nearby hear the sound of an engine, following it to find a Babylonia transport craft and Cerberus. Roland knows the team can't possibly be there for him or Lamia, so he sends her to eavesdrop and figure out what they are here for. She finds out their destination and that Commandant is part of the mission, with Roland wondering if that means their objective has to do with Luna. Wanting to get there first and investigate, Roland attaches a cart to Lamia and has her drag him along, since her body can move faster than one based on a human. They arrive at the town, and immediately Roland feels a pulsing deep within himself, as his ascendant power tells him that Luna has been here before. He keeps this truth to himself, since without solid evidence it's still just a theory. Then he suddenly puts up his guard. The town is too quiet, and quiet means enemies. Corrupted walk out of the woods and attack, with Roland sending Lamia to search the upper portion of the town while he takes care of the lower section. He destroys the corrupted and even sets a few traps along the way, and soon enough Cerberus arrives at the town. As Lamia searches, she thinks to herself that if she can get away from here, there is a good chance they will never meet again, but at the same time, she seems to have a goal of her own, one that would benefit greatly from having Roland around. Knowing she will have more chances to escape, but only this one to secure a strong ally, she kills the thought of running and continues her search. As Roland walks through the town, he begins to lose his grip on reality, wondering if the scene before him is real or production. Roland's entire life as an Ascendant has been defined by Luna. Outside of her, he has no direction. The voice calls him out on this, that he is always seeking his purpose but never puts effort into figuring out what it actually might be. While they talk, Roland stumbles upon a message reading "Come this way," and follows the arrow, heading to his next clue. In some other location, Cinderella speaks with the Winged Ascendant, only it isn't Voodoo. Instead, a split personality called Loki has taken control of the body and wants to include Cerberus into their mission. Cinderella seems quite unhappy as she listens to the two wrestle for dominance, but as long as the mission is completed, she doesn't mind what they do. Roland continues following the clues left by his mystery patron, as a singular white corrupted catches his attention. It stops in front of a large mansion at the end of town, and Roland is sure that this was once Luna's home. He meets the corrupted at the front of the gate, and moments later hears Lamia causing a commotion the next street over. He rushes to deal with the corrupted attacking her, as her disproportionate body is poor for close combat. A little while ago, when Lamia made it to the upper section of town, she watched as the members of Cerberus split up. She tried to contact Roland when a jitter bomb exploded below her feet, sending her tumbling down the side of the house and into a group of corrupted, causing her to run in a panic. Hearing this information, Roland gets excited at the prospect of what's to come, knowing everyone will make their way to the mansion eventually. He tells Lamia to find a seat and watch as he familiarizes himself with the building in preparation for the impending finale. Roland forces his way through the side of the gate, entering the courtyard of what was once Luna's childhood home. Meanwhile, Lamia finds herself a spot on a nearby building, and spots a small white figure wandering throughout the town before disappearing. Unfortunately, she does not have much time to think about what she saw, as the sound of an engine roars to life and a black winged figure soars into the sky. Inside the house, Roland searches room to room and finds nothing in the way of clues. Not knowing what to do next, he wonders if the house isn't actually significant, and that Babylonia might have just gotten unreliable intel. And if that's the case, what is he going to do? Where is he going to go? He looks at himself in the mirror, now reflecting his old self. The voice reminds him that he is Roland, and that even without someone else pointing the way, he is still himself. Luna, his symbol, might be lost right now, but the things she stood for are still around, and those things are things Roland can fight for. Things he will fight for. Lamia steps into the doorway, warning him that 21 is approaching the house, and Roland scrambles to make his preparations. He places a lock on the front door to distract 21 and hides in the shadows, sending Lamia back to the roof to keep watch in case anything of note happens. Roland watches as 21 enters the house and is at a loss trying to explain her behavior. First, she blankly stares into the room, then begins talking to herself, lastly stabbing her arm with a piece of glass. He assumes her monologue is her talking over a mind link, and remembers what Lamia said about Graveman's commandant being part of the mission. Suddenly, she runs deeper into the house, and Roland climbs through a previously open window to follow her. Even though Roland has already searched the house, he follows 21's trail hoping to find something different, because it seems that she can see something he can't. Roland figures out that whoever planned all of this knows exactly what he wants, and that those answers are not in this house. So if he can't find them here, they must be with the person controlling these events. He decides to stop playing by their rules in favor of forcing them out into the open. He looks out the window to see Cinderella, who tells him to enter the final hell. He tries to contact Lamia, but gets no reply. He's not too surprised she ran away, but didn't expect it so soon. Still, even without her, his performance must reach its conclusion. Shortly after Roland was last in contact, Lamia climbed to the highest point on the roof, where she was spotted and attacked by Voodoo. Consumed by fear, she completely abandons her plan to have Roland help her and flees. Roland leaves the house and finds a trail of virus on the ground, a trail that's invisible to those without affinity for the virus. Knowing this invitation is just for him, he follows the trail, arriving at a clearing next to a cliff, and standing in the center is Cinderella. Having made his introduction, Cinderella calls out Voodoo, and says this entire ordeal was a test to see if Roland was worth recruiting to work under Vonnegut, and the final trial is a fight against Voodoo herself. After a short skirmish, Voodoo decides to end the test, finding nothing of note in Roland's capabilities. Suddenly she begins to tremble, and her voice starts to split, as Loki manages to wrench control of the body. Loki attacks Roland again, who is at a severe disadvantage due to her air superiority. Roland continues to taunt her, enraging the Ascendant who has long since forgotten her mission and just wants him dead. She lands a heavy diving kick, knocking Roland back, but at this point his plan is complete. Another ship takes off from the forest, and the exhaust parts the trees just long enough for Loki to spot 21. After Cerberus defeats Voodoo and Roland gets back up, she judges his performance as acceptable and that he has passed. Completely fed up, he points his gun at her and demands to see Vonnegut. Cinderella appears to appease him, as Voodoo ignites a backup engine and makes her retreat. Hearing the sounds of Babylonia transports in the distance, both Cinderella and Roland also make their way out of town. She finds Roland at the base of the mountain, telling him to follow her. She leads him into the wastelands, and he follows for so long the scenery changes. They pass through many more cities and detours, until she finally stops at a set of ruins. He follows her into the darkness, feeling countless sets of eyes watching him, including Voodoo, yet not a hint of hostility. They enter a lit-up open space, and standing under a ray of sunlight is Vonnegut. He turns around and gets straight to the point, promising Roland he can give him what he truly desires. Roland tries to probe what Vonnegut knows without giving away too much information of his own. Vonnegut brings up Luna, calling his bluff, and the two go back and forth, playing a game of verbal gymnastics to gain the upper hand. Roland was trying to get Vonnegut to say what he wants from their deal, and he finally does, saying he wants Roland to pursue his ideal future, so long as Roland helps him achieve his, and when the time comes, he wants to see which future Roland will choose, but still Roland wants to know exactly what that future is. His nerves begin to overwhelm him, and the pressure from Vonnegut makes him anxious when he suddenly remembers what happened in the mirror. He realizes his next course of action is actually quite simple. He knows what he wants, and his master's intentions are their own, so he will use whatever he can to reach his goal, whether it be violence, cunning, or other ascendants. His price is a simple one: power, both his and Vonnegut's. In a situation like this, Roland has nothing to lose but the world to gain. The path before him is a dangerous tightrope. One false step is all that's needed for it all to come crashing down, but he will stop holding back and chase after what he wants with everything he has. Upon hearing his request, Vonnegut accepts the deal, and with a smirk, Roland takes a step forward to meet his unknown destiny. Alright, and that wraps up Inscription of Labyrinth. So, we have a good bit of stuff we can talk about. So, Corono is still playing their games, but it seems like Hassan has a plan to get Command to safety, so at least there's something going on with that. We'll just have to see how that continues on. We got a proper introduction to Noctis and 21, as well as learning what Lamia has been up to after all this time, after messing around with Murray. Maybe that has something to do with the deal that those two made in Chapter 13. Also, I don't know about you, but I find Lamia's character switch up quite jarring. Like, she was a menace back in Kowloon and for Night. Sure, she wasn't the strongest, but she definitely didn't shy away from a confrontation if need be. Maybe it's because, like, Voodoo is just that strong, or perhaps it's got something to do with this, like, new goal that she has found for herself. So I gotta survive and do this thing. So hopefully we learn a little more about that later. And then we talk about Roland. Roland set himself up on a warpath to get Luna back. He needs to be working with Vonnegut, who seems to have a massive network of resources. So that might work a lot better for him than whatever Alpha's doing, just kind of walking around on her own, on her bike. What else? Who else? Oh, Merciful One. So we got a nice bit of dialogue with the Merciful One. And if you read that whole section, like yourself, she's kind of ditzy. Or at least that's how she's acting right now. For all we know, she could be an Aizen-level manipulator. Okay, so I didn't put this in the summary because it's not needed. But there's also a story section in the original patch where they give you a smidge more information on Mercy. Like, Lamia in the chapter says her power was similar, but not exactly like Luna's. And in that extra story section, they straight up tell you that she is different than the other agents. Like, it calls her a higher being. Whether you want that to mean she's just that far above those two, or if she is literally just like another class of entity, I'll leave that up to you. I cut a lot of the 21 is mentally stunted dialogue. One, because there's just a lot. Like the birthday section, the birthday question, that talk was like 3 minutes long, and I don't need to put all that in there. I just need to make it clear that 21 is really lacking a personality outside of Cerberus. That's why her mind was full of Luna's memories, because she was raised as a weapon, not a person, so she has no identity, no sense of self on her own. Last few things. I didn't want to end it on this weird last section that Nicola had, because it didn't fit right, but Nicola's also planning something, and it has to do with Vera. So maybe that's why she calmed down right before she started tearing into the Corona constructs. Okay, that was the last thing. I don't got anything else. Any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer those in the comments, or just to read them. I have fun reading the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching the video, and I hope to see you all in the next video, where we cover Chapter 15 of the main story, The Last Spark.